Hello everybody, how you doing today? This is Saucony Prince, and I want to say Happy New Year and welcome to 2025. Last year when I started this podcast and when I launched my book entitled H.E.A.L, I never imagined that I would be impacting lives the way I am today. But I can't tell you how excited I am to have our first guest of 2025 be none other than a good friend of mine, Wendell Graham, and I'm going to be bringing him up in a little bit. But listen, I want you to think about this year and what can you do to make your year better? What can you do to actually make your year better? And I remember posting last year that the bravest thing we can do is to heal from our hurt. The bravest thing we can do is to heal from our hurt. And I know that healing at times is scary, it's hard, it's difficult, it's challenging. A lot of people run from it, they don't want to do it. But it's the best thing that we can do to be the best version of ourselves. And if you can't honestly say that you need to improve, well, then there's some work that needs to be done. But, like I said, always, even last year, we were fortunate enough to have a sponsor of this particular podcast, and that's none other than BetterHelp. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who is trained to listen and give you helpful, unbiased advice. First, you go to their site. You can use my link, betterhelp.com/SauconyPrinceHeal. You answer a few questions, and BetterHelp will match you to a professional who's had years of experience helping people with struggles just like yours. You can do it all from your phone or your computer, via a phone call, a video chat, or messaging. However you feel most comfortable, it is the easiest possible way to start talking to a therapist. You'll be matched to a therapist usually within 48 hours, so you can get started fast. Let BetterHelp connect you to a therapist who can support you, all from the comfort of your own home. Visit betterhelp.com/SauconyPrinceHeal or choose Saucony Prince Heal during your sign up and enjoy a special discount on your first month. Once again, we want to thank BetterHelp for being a sponsor of this amazing podcast. Listen, I don't want to take up too much time because I know our guest today, he is a good friend of mine, and I know he is just waiting and chomping at the bits to share some information that I know is going to help both of us, all of those who tune in, those who watch the replay, those who listen to the podcast on iHeartRadio and actually Spotify. Everybody who checks this out is going to be blessed by none other than my good friend, Wendell Graham. Wendell, you there?
Yes, sir. I'm here loud and clear. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, and you?
Man, I'm doing great. Glad to be here. First guest of the podcast of 2025. It's an honor to be here, man.
Yes, sir. So listen, tell our listeners a little bit about who you are and what it is you do.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Wendell Graham, and believe it or not, I am too from the big city of Mobile, just like Saucony Prince. I'm a sales coach, a professional sales coach. I'm a life coach, a business coach. I'm an entrepreneur, but more than anything, I'm proud of. I'm a father, and I love what I do. And so that's who a little bit about me.
Yeah. Well, Wendell and I met at an event. It was called Get Motivated several years ago. I was there with my coach, Dr. Ruben West, and God has a way of just putting people in your life when you need them and at the right time. And that's how Wendell and I's relationship started. And it's been a blessing to both of us because we encourage each other, we cry on each other's shoulders. Sometimes we actually throw up on each other, In fact, when we're going through stuff and, we need somebody. And I did a video entitled, You All Need Somebody to Throw Up On. Somebody that we can actually just be open and, in Wendell's word, honest, open, and transparent. He said he was going to be hot. Honest, open, and transparent. And we all need somebody like that. So I am so grateful and appreciative to God for allowing me to have him as a friend. And so, listen, I know I sent you the questions and stuff, and I'm going to see if we can just kind of deviate just a little bit from my format because I really want to get more of the story that you want to share about our topic. So, again, this podcast is not to end the conversation, but to start the conversation about inner child trauma, inner child wounds, but more importantly, inner child healing. And because of that, we've come up with several questions that we think can help steer us in that direction. So the first one is, in your professional opinion, how important is it for inner child healing?
I'm glad you asked that because that's a very interesting question. Because I like dealing with yardsticks, and on a scale of 1 to 10, and 10 being the greatest, most important that something could be, inner child healing would rank at a 10. So, in
Okay.
my opinion, that it's a 10. Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, in fact, one of the reasons why I wrote this book is because I realized, even as I was introducing people to themselves, because for those of you who haven't heard, my name is Sakoni Prince of SakoniPrince.com, where we make motivation personal by introducing you to yourself. And in the process of doing that, I realized that there was a component I was missing, and that was the inner child. And the reason that I came to that conclusion was I was speaking at an event in Mobile, Alabama, called a Focus Women's Conference, and I had a chance to speak to a room full of women, and I shared about them wearing the right mindset. But at the end of that session, I did a little exercise where I had them to speak to the little girl within them. And I can't tell you how many women of the different ages and stages of life actually came up to me and said that they appreciated that. And that was, I think, the catalyst that really got me to looking into, even though they were 60, 70, 40, 50, 30 years old, they still had within them a little girl. Because I told them, I said, that little girl is proud of the woman that you become. And so oftentimes we don't really even factor that into our current behavior, but it's still there and it still shows up. I see your sister Bridget Everett, she's on. She says, oh Lord. I know she's well. I'm gonna leave that brother and sister between y'all, but yes, inner child healing.
One of my greatest supporters.
Yes, she is. She is.
Yes, yes.
So inner child healing it is important.
Yes.
So, in your professional opinion, like when should somebody start doing inner child work?
Well, let me first by setting the stage, and this is such
Okay.
a sensitive subject because when you unbox something, sometimes you got to be careful what you unbox because you want to make sure that it don't go crawling all over the place. So your
True.
question to me was, when should it start? Well,
Right.
in my research, I studied that the human brain doesn't fully develop until around the age of 25. And so
Okay.
and what happens a lot of time is that we suffer from something that's called myopia, which is distorted perception. When we're
Okay.
young, we're small. We have a child's-like perspective. And
Right.
so what we're looking at a bunch of giants. We don't necessarily understand all of the decisions that these giants are making because our perception of what's being done is at a child's like angle. So that
Right.
is myopia, distorted perception. So it should start early, but the human brain doesn't fully develop to be able to comprehend all of those decisions that were made as children that the parents made. It doesn't fully come into effect until around age 25. Does that make sense?
It does. It does.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So it should start as soon as possible. Take it into consideration. You may not understand all of those decisions that were made at that particular time. Yes, sir.
Right. Right. You remind me of something that Dr. Charles Dent said, and he was on my podcast too earlier last year. He mentioned that when we are children, we may not have the words to articulate what's happening to us. We know we don't like it. We know it doesn't feel right. We know something is off, but we really can't put a name to it. It's not
That's
until
right.
we become an adults and get out of the situation and we can really kind of quantify what happened to us. And
That's right.
so to me at that point, and like I've said several times in my presentations, what happened to you may not have been your fault, but it is your responsibility and your responsibility to heal from it.
Right.
I
Exactly.
want to be crystal clear. What happened to you may not have been your fault, but it's your responsibility to heal from it, to move past it, and to move beyond it.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. So,
I just wanted to piggyback off of that because I know you have a line of questions, but I just want to relate and just tie a story into. And hopefully I'm not jumping ahead of the script here.
go
But
ahead.
I want to tie a story of myopia. when I was a young kid, when I was a little boy, maybe around 9, 8 years old, I don't know. Christmas was a big event. We didn't always get the stuff we wanted, but I wanted a football. All my childhood life, I wanted a football. And luckily for me, on Christmas, my mom bought me a Kmart football, 100% organic Chinese rubber. I'm talking about the most bounciest ball you ever seen. Well, I kicked that ball over a fence that had barbed wire. And my mom told me never to climb that fence. Well, what did I do as a child? I climbed that fence, scaled the barbed wire, got the ball, but I didn't calculate when I got that ball how I was going to play with it because she knew. I sat it on the phone, on the front porch, and when my sister Bridget came home, she saw that football and she said, "Where did you? Oh, you got your football?" And I said, "Yes." My mom looked at me and she said, "You jumped that fence." And boy, she looked at me to see if I had any scars on me. I didn't at that time, but by the time she did, I got through. I had some scars on me. But it took me years and years, Sakona, to realize that what I thought was trauma was really protection. I thought that
Right.
I was traumatized and beat an inch from my life. But what she was really doing years later, after I had my own children, I realized that the very thing I thought was traumatized, was abuse, was actually protection. Because not a few days later, I saw a guard walking around that lumber yard with a machine gun and a German Shepherd dog. My mom was protecting me from harm and danger, but I couldn't process what was going on at the time. And that's why I wanted to interject. Myopia, which is distorted perception, you look at a thing a certain way, but when you start having your own children and experiencing life, you understand that some of those decisions were made to protect you.
Yeah, that is so, so true. And you know, it takes us looking back on our lives to really understand and see what they were trying to do for us and to us, how they were trying to help us. And it takes that kind of hindsight for us to really appreciate those who really cared about us and those who did the best they could with what they had.
Right.
You know, I know at times we have a hard time again processing stuff because, like you said, you know, like when we were a child, we don't understand why can't I get a brand new bike? Why I got to get a secondhand bike, or why I got to get a hand me down, or why can I get these brand new pair of Nikes instead of these, or those Chuck Taylors instead of those bows, that we
Exactly.
used to have to get, you know,
Exactly.
but but as we grow in our understanding, we should be able to actually go back and address some of those issues because believe it or not, and like I said, they are still there. They may be under the surface, in fact, they may be buried deep, but they're still there. And all it takes is the wrong situation or the right one, depending upon how you're looking at it, for it to actually come up and come to the surface. Bridget, she has been commenting left and right. She said tracks, tennis shoes.
Hey, she was the main culprit. I would have got away with it if it wasn't for those rascally kids, like on Scooby
Oh
Doo.
man.
But Bridget was the one who told on me. Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
yes,
and
she
I and
was.
I
Yeah.
I agree with you, Dr. Saccone Prince. It's not to take away from actual childhood trauma. I'm not trying to
Mhm.
discredit the trauma that we actually go through, but what we have to do is we have to start delineating and outlining what actually was with an adult mind versus what those things that were done to protect us. And you made a very interesting point, because sometimes it's good to go back and not ask for forgiveness from your mother and father, but forgive them. Forgive them. Don't ask for forgiveness, because asking for forgiveness, you can get denied. You can get denied just like applying for a credit card. You can get denied, but just forgive them, because sometimes as parents, and you and I both know this, we make the best decisions that we can. It's not personal. We just make the best decisions that we can. So for those things we did not understand, we just forgive them. Just give it to
Right,
them. Yes.
right, right. And your sister, she's chiming in because she said they were only working with what they had within themselves, and that is so, so true.
That's
You
right.
know, and again, but it takes that mature mind for us to be able to process that and really to even have a conversation with our inner child.
Exactly.
Amen.
Exactly.
And so in fact she says, come on, because that is so, so true.
We go,
So
hey, Sakoni, we're gonna
yeah.
shut her down because this is gonna be her podcast after a while.
Hey, maybe she'll be our guest next
She'll
week.
be the next
Okay.
guest. No, let's put her on. She has a lot to say. Yes, she's an expert. Yeah.
I can definitely see that. I can definitely see
Yes,
that.
sir. Yes, sir.
So okay, now this question here, it goes from internal to, let's say, external relationship. Because how does trauma, inner child trauma, show up in life or in relationships?
Um, a lot of times you'll see it showing up with um, struggling with self-esteem,
Hmm.
emotional outbursts. You have
Right.
difficulty with relationships. You have fear of abandonment. It shows up in many different ways, and we think that it's something else. A lot of times, Sakoni, this is what I've learned. In order to self-medicate ourselves, we sometimes use other things as a tranquilizing drug. You know,
Right.
these outbursts, we don't know where they're coming from because we haven't gone through the process of discovery, going back and actually doing the work or allowing working with a professional. So we use food as a tranquilizing drug. We use drugs to tranquilize us. We use sex. We use overworking, overindulging. We use abusive behavior. And so those things resurface. We know that they're abnormal, but we don't know how to trace them back, follow the breadcrumbs to where they came from. So all of those things that I list could be signs that those things are triggers. They're triggers from childhood trauma. So that's a very good question. So we have to look at the behavior and say, where is this coming from? Is this normal or is this abnormal behavior? And
Right.
that's where we really start.
Right. And that really takes us being willing to look at ourselves and start questioning ourselves. Because, like, I tell people all the time, we'll question everybody else about their behavior, what they're doing, but rarely do we question ourselves. And so, if we're going to get better, if we're going to do better, that means that we have to at least take some kind of analysis of ourselves, to see it, because it's not just what you do, but why you do it. And if you don't understand the why, you'll keep repeating the what
That's right. That's
and
right.
trying to figure out why do I keep circling the same mountain?
Well,
Because
that's
it's
no,
go
that's a
ahead.
very good point because the same logic that it used to get yourself into a situation, you can't use that same logic to get yourself out of the situation. Sometimes we try to be our own therapist. Boy, that's a mistake. I mean, you cannot be your own therapist. You know,
No.
my solution to coming up with my financial problems might be to get a ski mask and a pistol. Who knows? You know, that may not be the best answer. I'm thinking to myself, what do you say? That's not a good idea. Don't do that,
Don't
Sakoni.
do that. Don't
Oh,
do that. But
okay.
now
All
I
right.
have to testify.
But sometimes you're only working with the tools that you have, and that's why it's necessary to go to an expert. Go to someone
Right.
who don't know you, who specialize in the area, who can analyze the behavior and let you know exactly where this is coming from, so they can give you that anecdotal process, so they can give you the solution to the problem, not just putting a band-aid on a gunshot wound, but actually going back and giving you the work and letting you do the physical action steps.
Okay. All right. So, with that being said, our next question is: what do you believe is the biggest obstacle to people starting or doing inner child healing?
Okay, what's that river in Egypt? The big river in Egypt. Is it called
Uh,
denial? Is
deny.
it denial?
Yeah.
That's what it's called. It's called denial. Yeah, denial. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right.
Denial. There's nothing wrong with me. There's something wrong with you. Have you ever heard of the term gaslighting?
Oh
You
yeah.
know,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Definitely.
yeah, gaslighting. Sometimes, I'll put it all on you, baby. I'll put it all. Yeah, the songwriters say, I like the way you comb your hair, and I like the stylish clothes you wear. It's just the little things you do that show me how much
Right.
you really care. But sometimes I'm
Right.
gonna find out that I don't like your hair, I don't like your clothes, I don't like the way you walk. I'm gonna put it all on you, baby, because I don't want to look at me. I'm looking at the man in the mirror and I know he's ugly. But if I have to work on myself, that's too much sometimes. So the biggest obstacle is the river in Egypt called denial. I'm in denial. Ain't nothing wrong with me. everything wrong with you. Let's work on you. But the reality of it is you got to put in your own work. My grandmother used to say it like this. You got to work on your own soul salvation with fear and trembling. In other words, grandmama was saying, work on yourself. Work on yourself.
Yeah.
That's what she was
Yeah.
saying to me.
Yeah. And that is so, so true. And it takes us wanting to be a better version of ourselves.
Yes,
You
yes.
know, there is no sports team or athlete on the planet today, and I don't care what it is. They could be swimming, they could be playing golf, they could be playing volleyball, football, basketball. They all have a game reel.
That's right.
They watch themselves. They see what they did right. They applaud
Right.
and celebrate those, but they also see what they did wrong, and they
That's right.
make the necessary adjustments.
Real time.
You know,
Absolutely.
you
Absolutely.
know.
Yeah, yeah. I love and I talk a lot about patterns in coaching. Um, there are patterns that we duplicate year after year after year. Watch the patterns because the pattern tell you the person. Watch the pattern.
Mm.
Am I gonna believe your lying lips or your patterns that I've been watching over the past 50 years? I can believe what you say, but I can trust your patterns. You're not going to deviate too much from your patterns. I love these comments. Eugene Lever said, accepting it. I want to read the comments myself because they're chiming in. I appreciate that, all these comments. But sometimes you got to look at the pattern. You got to look what you've been duplicating year after year. They say if you want to keep getting what you've been getting, keep doing what you've been doing. But sometimes you have to step outside of that and say, you know what? I have some unhealthy patterns and I need some help.
It's so, so true. And Bridget has chimed in again. She said, you must address every aspect of the trauma. You have to start from the root in order to heal properly.
Very good. Very good.
And that is so, so true. Because I tell people all the time, you can pull all of the leaves off a tree, but guess what's going to happen? It's
What's
going to
that?
bloom again. It's going to bloom again.
Oh, yeah.
If you pull all the leaves off and you don't get to the root,
Yes.
all you did was pruned it.
That's
It's
right.
going to come
That's
back
right.
bigger and better.
That's
So
right.
we have to make sure that we do the necessary work to get to the root. And like you said earlier, there are some things where we really need professional help. Now, we can't have good friends that we can talk to and go to and confide in. And maybe our trauma wasn't that deep that we need a professional. But a lot of us, we have issues that definitely they need to they need to be addressed by a professional. So we need professional help, assistance, counseling, therapy, and just even checking in. So it is so, so important. And
That's
Bridget,
right.
she's chimed back in again. She said, that's it, Sakoni. Okay, well, thank you, Bridget. I appreciate it. I'm going to have to have her on the show because
We're
I'm
gonna
going to see.
get on.
I'm
Hey,
going to see if she does as much talking.
that's right. That's right. No, but you're true. That's true, Sakoni. I love the fact that when you talked about going to the root of the problem, sometimes we don't go back far enough. And a lot of times a person, your trauma, and it may not be somebody else's trauma. A lot of times people say, "Well, I grew up poor." Well, I don't know what they were traumatized by their poverty. But everybody in my neighborhood was poor, so we didn't know we were poor until we went
Right.
to another neighborhood, but it had some money. So we weren't traumatized by our living condition. We were traumatized when we went somewhere else. So sometimes you have to just put it in perspective. Again, I have to go back to the human brain doesn't fully develop till around 25. And so once that brain fully develops and you have some experience under your belt, you're able to dismiss some of those things that you categorize as trauma and you just chalk it up as life lessons. And it builds character. A lot of the things that we went through builds character. It's not necessarily trauma. Not to take away from true trauma. I'm not a licensed professional. I'm simply giving my opinion.
Right. And you know what? And I'm glad that you mentioned that because, like I've said with this podcast is not meant to end the conversation, but to start the conversation. Because I want to make it commonplace for us to be willing to open up about things that happen to us that could be hindering us today. There are a lot of people that are walking around with stuff that is showing up in their current behavior that was seeded in their childhood, but they don't realize it. They just
That's
like,
right.
well, that's just where I am. And again, it's not what you do, but why.
That's good. That's good. It's not what you do, but why you do it. And that's where you
Yeah.
get to the root once again. Yes, sir.
Right. So, do you believe that people can do inner child work or inner child therapy alone?
To a certain degree, because
Okay.
you know the stories from your perspective, you know the history, and that's where it starts. Full disclosure, sometimes you can't get to what you won't talk about. You can't get to the healing unless you talk about it. And
Exactly.
the inner healing comes about where you can have two, three siblings growing up in the same household, and one has been traumatized and the one hasn't, because what is it? It's called, I think it's called emotional neglect. Some children need more emotional attention than others. And if
Right.
they don't get the emotional attention that they need, then that's trauma to them. They felt like they weren't loved. And again, it shows up later on in life. It's outbursts and abuse in some instances. You can do the work, but you have to talk about it and be willing to talk about it and to be honest, open, and transparent. And like you said, hot. And I just want to say this because I said in 2025, I was just going to add this part to it. It's okay to be honest, but it's better to be transparent. It's okay to be honest. Usually, honesty comes with anger. I'm going to tell you about yourself because, thank you. I'm going to tell you about yourself because I'm angry at you. But when I'm transparent, I'm going to tell you what I need. Before it gets to the point of anger, I'm gonna be transparent and tell you that I need long walks in the park. I need notes and flowers. I need handheld. I need that kind of stuff transparently, but not with an outburst of just honesty. So it's okay to be honest, open, and transparent. But I love to be transparent and just let you see through me. Let you see through me, because if you can see me for who I am, you'll never question my intentions. You know that I come from a good space and from a good place. My intentions are good. The delivery might be horrible, but my intentions are good. So
Right.
your
Right.
question, yes, you can start that process yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, I believe that's where it has to start with us. We have to see the need for us to actually put in that level of work. We have to see that something is off, something isn't right, something isn't normal. We have to notice the patterns that we find ourselves in and going through. And we have to be the one to raise our hand and say, hey, look, I'm going through something. I'm dealing with something. I need some help. I tried to work on this on my own, but I've only gotten so far. I need some help. And I tell people all the time, once I've exhausted all of my knowledge and all of my insight, I become the best student because I've tried everything I know how to do. So now I am looking for somebody who knows more than me to help me through this process. And so
Right.
yeah, it starts with us, but there comes a point to where we have to get somebody else to tag team and to join us on this journey.
That's right. That's right. And men are the worst, Connie. I tell you, sometimes
Oh yeah.
we don't open up enough, and we expect those who love us to be mind readers. And by us assuming the role of providers, there's a lot on our shoulders. So we suffer in silence. A lot of times, the
Mm.
silent cries of a man, we suffer in silence because a lot of people are leaning on us. And no man, no real man, and I use air quotes on that, but no real man wants to come across as being weak. So we become this fictitious character that we can carry the globe on our back, the world on our back, but on the inside we may be dying. So at that point, it's essential that we have somebody that we can open up to and that we can vent to, but with resolution. I don't believe in just venting. I don't believe in that. I'm not the person that you can just vent to, because I'm gonna try to give you a solution. It's the coach in me. I'm gonna try to give you an antidote. Come back in 30 days after you take this pill.
And honestly, most men are that way.
Yes,
They
yes.
want to get a solution. But listen,
Oh, go ahead. You probably got to take a commercial. Go
I
ahead. I want to.
I got some questions. In fact, I want to if I put this up on the screen, and this is from none other than my wife. And the
Okay.
question is, do you all think in order to be transparent, we have to feel safe? I'm gonna let you answer that one.
I never felt safe in my life. I don't care nothing about being safe. Oh, ask me the question because I believe I'm a warrior. I was put on this planet to be a warrior. I'm a fighter. I don't care nothing about being safe. I just want to get to the truth. I just want to get to I just want to solve the issues. So I don't know nothing about no safe place. I don't know. Maybe I'll let you answer that. Because I ain't never been safe.
Well, and I don't want to give the typical male answer because, I've heard it, I've talked to therapists, I've actually been to therapy myself, and, oftentimes men are goal oriented. You bring us an issue, we want to solve it. That's how we're hardwired. But
Right.
oftentimes that's not what, especially the females in our life, that's not what they are looking for or what they need. They want somebody to just listen. And so it's hard for us to turn that off because that's our default is to fix it, you know.
That's right.
So I think that's where if our communication has to come to the forefront. It's like either we have to ask, do you want me to fix it or do you want me to just listen? Or they have to say, I don't want you to fix it, I just want you to listen. So we'll know to put our toolbox down because as soon as they show up, we're grabbing our tool belt, our box, we're Bob the Builder, we can fix it. We got out our tool and drills and stuff and we're ready to go. And they don't want that. And so I think that's where communication has to come in to address that.
I also just wanted to add this point too. A safe place could be a man, and I see what Lisa said. Lisa said yes, but I'm gonna go to this comment. She said a safe place meaning trust the person you are being open with. That could be a man, another man. Just a safe place that you can go, knowing that your secrets are safe with that person. How you're feeling at that time. I don't believe in. I'm probably catch some slack for this. I don't believe in having a crime party with women. That's just me. And I just get with me a little bit later on if you want to cuss me out. But I don't believe in we should just sit around and cry with women as men and just tell our problems that way. I believe that we should have a partner or a friend or somebody, some guy that we can go to and men get together and talk about it. But as far as the women are concerned, I believe that when we go to the women that we should have some type of antidote, some type of solution. I'll be the best listener. But still, at the end of it, I'm going to give you a solution. So you might want to choose another venting partner with me if you just need somebody to just vent to. I haven't figured that part out yet, how not to give the solution. I'll be transparent on that. I'm going to come up with a solution because I believe there's a solution to every problem. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
and so yeah, and I think I may have to wind up teaching a class on that. How to put your tool belt down because oftentimes, again, what they want is to be heard. They don't want anything fixed, and that's a whole nother story.
That's a whole nother story.
That's a whole other story.
Yes,
All right,
sir.
so listen. So our next question, and I want to get to some of these comments real quick because in fact they've been coming in. Lisa, and she was saying speaking from a woman's perspective, and that was from this particular quote here about yes, it has to be a safe place, meaning a trusted person that you're open with. Bridget came back and said, good point, Mr. Everett. Then my wife came back and said, I agree, Lisa. Next up, we got, in fact, Eugene saying being free is more important than feeling safe.
Yes.
Okay.
Being free.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
I agree. Not unencumbered, unhinged, unhindered. To be able to say what you want to say, and I'm interested in hearing more about that later on, Mr. Eugene. But that's a very good point. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, being free, and he's another one, Coney. Bring him on your show too. Separate time.
Okay.
Not at the
It's a
same
family.
time.
It's a family affair.
It's a family affair. And we're gonna
Bridget
get
said, Lisa, that's
Wade on too.
true. She said, say it, Graham, and Lisa agreed. Okay, well, in fact, there was some more. She said, I like it. How to put your tool belt down. Okay, all right. Well, maybe that's going to be my next book. Fellas, just put your tool belt down. Grab you some popcorn and listen. All right, yeah. And my wife said, that's a different podcast. True it is.
To be honest with you, I feel like all my life I've been bookman and janitor. And Bookman, when he would go to weddings with his tool belt on, I don't know if you ever watched Good Time. Anyway.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Hey, cut that part out about Bookman there. Don't put that part out.
Man, when I went to church in Atlanta, there was a guy, he was the deacon at the church. His name was Deacon McIntyre, but they called him MacGyver.
Yeah.
Because anything you needed,
right,
he had. He had the old fanny pack on.
Yeah.
And somebody said, watch this. Hey, Diggy McIntyre, I need a Phillips screwdriver. He unzipped
Well,
his fanny pack.
I don't know nothing about that, Sakoni. So oh, where that come from?
He pulled out three. He pulled out one that could work on eyeglasses. One, I mean, but see, again, it's understanding our default.
Right.
Man, put the drill down. Put the
Yeah, I'm
drill
ready to
down.
fix something. I'm ready to
I
fix something.
know, I know that. I know. And see, my thing, even with this book and even with this podcast, I want to start people on that process because talking about a flat tire all day isn't going to change it.
That's right.
We can acknowledge it, we can look at it, we can figure out how it happened, and all of that's okay. That's for us to figure out how not to allow it to happen again. If you keep getting flat tires because you're driving through a construction zone, okay, let's change where you're driving.
Change the route. Change the route.
But you still got to change the tire,
That's right.
and then we need to figure out why the tire went flat.
That's right. That's right.
So, yeah, like I said, that's it.
Let me say this.
Go ahead.
By no stretch of the imagination am I presenting myself to be a perfect man, and we all know that. But however, I've been working on myself for some 35 years. I've been, and at the end of 35 years in personal development, I still can tell you that I'm not perfect. So personal development and working on yourself is where it starts. You may never get it right, but you have to start. They say every journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And so you have to make that first significant step to the road to healing, because that's the title of this podcast. Heal, help, elevate, and learn. Help, elevate, and learn. You got to receive the help. You got to elevate and learn. And you have to, and the only way you can learn is that you have to be a student. And a student is humble. A student has to, we have to put down our ego, and we have to put down what we think we know and submit ourselves to someone who's put in the work to give us a different perspective in order to get different results. Heal, help, elevate, and learn. I'm plugging you in, by the way. Heal, help,
I hear that.
And learn. And so that's what we got to do. We gotta humble ourselves and submit ourselves, regardless of whatever the subject matter is. That's the only way you're going to learn. For 30-something years, I've been working on myself, still working on myself, and will continue to work on myself until the day that I die.
Yep, it is a never-ending journey. Like Eugene told Bridget, thank you. And Bridget says, help, elevate, and learn. Hey, listen, we are going to actually run another commercial, but when we come back, I want you to share with us any last thoughts that you've had based on this podcast.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So let's go here. I've tried it. Okay, so again, I want to thank our sponsor of this podcast, none other than BetterHelp. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who is trained to listen and give you helpful, unbiased advice. First, you go to their site. You can use my link, betterhelp.com/SakoniPrinceHeal. You answer a few questions, and BetterHelp will match you to a professional who's had years of experience helping people with struggles just like yours. You can do it all from your phone or your computer, via a phone call, a video chat, or messaging. However you feel most comfortable, it is the easiest possible way to start talking to a therapist. You'll be matched to a therapist usually within 48 hours, so you can get started fast. Let BetterHelp connect you to a therapist who can support you, all from the comfort of your own home. Visit betterhelp.com/SakoniPrinceHeal or choose Sakoni Prince Heal during your sign up and enjoy a special discount on your first month. Again, we want to thank BetterHelp for being our sponsor of this amazing episode. And I want to thank my good friend Wendell Graham for taking time out of his busy schedule to be here with us for our first podcast of 2025. So Wendell, if anybody wanted to connect with you with all the endeavors and stuff that you're doing, what's the easiest and best way for them to connect with you?
Well, I'm on all social media platforms. You can reach me on Facebook. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. You can reach me anywhere. But just easiest way, just go to Facebook and look up Wendell Graham, and you'll see me there on Facebook. And that's the easiest way that you can reach me.
Okay, all right. Well, with that being said, I do want to give you an opportunity to really just share with our listeners any closing thoughts that you may have.
Okay, over the years, what I've learned about life is that it's a journey. You know, um, and you can make yourself look good. For an example, right behind me, you might see a baby grand piano. I don't really have a baby grand piano. That's just a backdrop. You can make yourself look good,
Right.
but see, sometimes you can put on good clothes, good clean clothes, but you didn't take the bath. So you have to do the work. You have to do the hard work, the introspection, the looking inside of yourself, teaming up with a group of people, support group. If you need counseling, go to counseling. If you need therapy, go to therapy. And like I qualified in this over and over again, I'm a licensed sales coach, a professional business coach. I'm a consultant. These are the things that I do. But one thing I know for certain, two things I know for doggone sure, is that I've been working on myself. And the only way that you're going to get help is to be transparent, honest, open, and transparent. But you got to get the help. You got to get elevated, and you got to learn. Help, elevate, and learn. You got to heal. And if you don't heal, I'm plugging Saucony in. I don't know if you're picking up what I'm putting down, but you gotta heal from that trauma and start enjoying life. Get around people that's going to get you out of your comfort zone and push you into an environment to do some things that you haven't done before. Because when you get those new experiences, you'll be able to talk about some new things. Quit thinking that going to Walmart and walking around Walmart all day is an outing. Book a trip, go on a cruise, jump out of an airplane, but put a parachute on. Yeah, so we can talk to you next time. But that's it, Dr. Chris.
All right, all right. Well, in fact, with that being said, I do want to start closing out my podcast because a lot of people know me as the healed inner child person, but there are a lot of people that know me as a speaker. So I'm going to start closing out my podcast with my scissor reel. So until next time, we'll see you next week, and don't forget to heal. Well, my name is Saucony Prince of SauconyPrince.com, where we make motivation personal by introducing you to yourself. I'm a motivational speaker, a trainer, and a coach. I'm also an author. I help people in the area of personal development and leadership development because I believe that you can't lead others until you learn how to lead yourself. But once you learn how to lead yourself, the next logical step is that you lead other people.
Saucony Prince is the best keynote I've ever seen.
He really encouraged me so much.
He has this ability of seeing in people what they don't see in themselves.
He was so confident. When he was coming to the stage, you could see like, wow, this is a lion.
Any actor that's going for a role, they do a case study. If I'm going to be a fry cook, I go to a restaurant and watch people that are fry cooks. If I'm going to be a mob boss, I go and, well, maybe not go to with them, but you take some notes as to what they do. Our children are watching us. What can they reference when they step into our shoes? I do what I do because I believe that people have truly yet to understand their purpose. Once you know who you are, nothing can stop you. But until you know who you are, anything can. So my goal is to really help people to understand their purpose and their calling. And oftentimes they have the answers themselves, but they're not asking the right questions. So I help people to get to that place to where they look at themselves, they step back and they see how they've been a help to those around them and what really drives them. And from that, they really understand the value of it. They learn to value their value and see what value their value brings. Because a lot of people, they have yet to do that. Until you know who you are, anything can stop you. But once you know who you are, nothing can stop you. I want you to understand that you are blessed. That you are blessed to be a blessing. That there is somebody looking up to you. They're looking at you. Don't ever forget that. Because if you ever do, you're going to leave them without a mind.
I've learned so much and I've experienced a lot of interactions with people.
The practical approach, like you can't just sit down there, you have to walk up to an opportunity. Sometimes you have to grab the opportunity. Sometimes you have to fight for the opportunity. There's so much life lessons.
I think from today onwards, I'll stretch out and reach to higher levels.